Welcome back, friends, to the Cantor's Corner. This week, in Parshah Balak, Balak charges Balaam with putting a curse upon the Israelites. At first, Balaam does not wish to do so, since God tells him not to do it. But once Balak offers Balaam a hearty sum of cash, God tells Balaam to go and follow Balak's people. Now, Balaam is very frank with Balak and tells Balak, I will only do what God asks me to do. So on 3 separate occasions, when Balaam would have cursed the Israelites, God tells Balaam instead to bless them. And of course, Balaam does what God asks. One of those blessings is very familiar to us. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael. How great are your tents, O Jacob? How beautiful are your dwelling places. Imagine, if you will, that God instead did not intercede on Balaam's behalf and on behalf of the Israelites. That would mean that Balaam would have had to do whatever Balak said, whether or not Balaam agreed with it. If Balaam really needed that cash, I've got a good feeling Balaam would have done whatever Balak asked him to do. I certainly believe this is the case for the Balaams of our time when it comes to political finance laws. There are 2 ways in which a person can donate to a political campaign, either through a PAC, a political action committee, or through an outside group. Political action committees, if they are aligned with a particular candidate, are able to interact directly with that candidate. In those cases, there are a number of limits placed on a PAC. For example, they can only contribute a fixed amount to a candidate's campaign or to a political party. And they cannot receive any donations from corporations or from labor union groups. However, a corporation can sponsor a PAC and pay for its administration and for fundraising, so there is a little bit of a loophole around that. PACs are also required to disclose their donors on either a quarterly basis during election years or on a semi-annual basis during non-election years. When it gets closer to an election, PACs are asked to disclose their donors on a monthly basis. Now, outside groups aren't bound by those same rules, and this does include super PACs. On the flip side, they are also not directly tied to a candidate, but they have unlimited spending towards ads or towards going door to door for their cause. But this is the same case for a PAC when it is acting on its own accord. Thanks to the 2010 Citizens United decision, corporations and unions are now able to freely contribute to super PACs and other outside groups. Many of these groups are 501c nonprofit organizations, and therefore are tax exemptable. These groups are also not required to disclose their donor base. Super PACs are technically a kind of PAC. They're classified as an independent expenditure organization. And since they can only act independently, not directly affiliated with a candidate, they are allowed to have unlimited spending on ads and door-to-door campaigning. They also can receive unlimited funding from corporations and labor unions. Super PACs have the option to how they report their donor base and at how frequently they're able to report their donor base. So during an election year, they are allowed to report either on a monthly or a quarterly basis. This allows a super PAC to time out a report in such a manner that several months' worths of donations get reported once an election is finished. Because a super PAC can receive donations from corporations, a person can also mask their identity through a shell company, which can make it even more difficult to figure out who is donating to a super PAC. Because of how these rules are set up, corporations now have a tremendously loud voice in our political system and are able to make the Bil'ams of our time able to do whatever the corporation wishes for them to do. What can we do to bring the focus of our political system back to the needs of the people rather than corporate interests? I gave you some information just now, but this is only the surface. If you'd like to find out more, I strongly encourage you to look at places like opensecrets.org. We're also about to enter a season where we see a lot more political ads. So whenever you see one, pay attention to who sponsored it. Do some research on them. Look at their donor base. If you're not able to figure out every person who's donated, view that ad with even more caution. Do not lose your skepticism in this year's election season. Last month, our House of Representatives passed a bill which allowed 501c groups to continue their practice of not being required to disclose their donor base. Contact your federal House representative and voice your displeasure over this decision. We, as Jews, have always honored each and every single person's voice. From the time of our Mishnah with the houses of Hillel and Shammai, through the Talmud with Rav and Shmuel, we have made it a point to record each and every single person's thoughts, including the dissenting opinion. Together, let's work for a day when every single American's voice can be heard in our political system.